sorry about that. So this is YouTube Joseph WM. Human ancestors from the origin of life to present day. STEM mammals. Again, so let's begin. So our story starts at the end of the Carboniferous, around 301 million years ago, with where we left off last time with Archaeopteryx here, this lizard-like looking like creature, which is a synapsid. Then also which is the earliest synapsid. But before we get there, so far in this series, we've seen the first cells, the first cells of internal organelles, the first animals, the first vertebrates, our ancestors moving on to land and conquering the land. Now, once again, here's Archaeopteryx, one of, if not the earliest STEM mammals, that lived around 360 million years BCE. Which was cold-blooded, and then came, later on not there yet, then came Veranops, a descendant of Archaeopteryx, that looked like this. It was basically the STEM mammal equivalent to a monitor lizard, and then also, and it was, how it might have looked like monitor lizards live today. I'm just guessing that, Veranops lived between 279,500,000 BCE and 272,500,000 BCE. It was actually middle-blooded. And then came Biormasuchus, which was a dog-sized carnivore that lived around 276 million years BCE, and was likely nocturnal or possibly crepuscular. I'm just guessing that last part. Was a member of the Biormasuchids, a clade order of the class, in my opinion, it's an order. I consider it an order, but it's really a suborder of the order Therapsids, which I consider it a class. It was just a subclass or an order. And then Veranops was a pelycosaur. Anyway, another group of STEM mammals I consider its own class. I just know they're probably just a subclass of Therapsids. Pelycosaurs dominated the early Permian. The Dasyphilians dominated the mid-Permian, a suborder of Therapsids. And then other Therapsids dominated the late Permian. We'll get to in a minute. And then came, I forgot to mention that. Sorry, Veranops was it lived in the early Permian. I already mentioned this. Synapsid, like all these. It was like 4 feet or 1.2 meters long and lived in the United States, Russia, Southern Hemisphere. Later in the Permian, got increasingly drier. Synapsids that started out as cold-blooded became mesothermic, like the Dimetrodon, and then the Therapsids became middle-blooded. So our ancestors like Archaeopteryx went from cold-blooded to middle-blooded Varanops, and then warm-blooded in Viarmasuchus. It wasn't really a crocodile, even though Suchus means crocodile, and then it wasn't a crocodile at all. And then the late Permian, our ancestors at one point might have been Venezuelans, which lived which evolved into a group. Which I'm not sure which species our ancestors was. I don't know individual found species, but they were the first. Not only the first venomous synapsids, or first venomous stem mammals, or first venomous synapsids, the first ever venomous terrestrial vertebrates. They're the oldest known terrestrial vertebrates to be venomous. There's grooves in their teeth that hint they might have been. And they they lived between in the mid-Permian from 266 million to 242 million years BCE. I think they would have taken like shortly after. But we'll get to that later on. Anyway, get back to them in a little bit. And then also the Davinia prima. This was our ancestor from Lake Perry. Lived around 260 to 252 million years BCE. And then right before the greatest mass extinction that ever hit Earth, the biggest mass extinction ever, the Great Dying, and then also in 252 million years ago in Siberia, flood basalt, which is a type of volcanic activity or eruption, had occurred, where it basically created a lava flood, or an inland sea of lava. Enough basalt lava to bury the entire United States under 1 mile of molten rock. I mean, the whole the continental United States under 1 mile of molten rock, or 3/4 of a mile deep, at least. And then also they pumped out. Oh, hold on. And they caused acid rain after start fire, earthquakes before the fire. Acid rain and blocked it, and then blocked out sunlight, which cooled the planet. That caused a runaway global warming. As they kept on erupting, they stopped pumping out sulfur compound, fluorine, chlorine compound, caused acid rain and cooled the temperature. For ice house gases, this is the sulfur compound, and then it rained sulfuric acid. Then it got warm after the sulfuric acid in the global cooling, or volcanic winter. Got warmer like a volcanic summer. I made up that term. Global warming got mad. And then it basically caused global warming to get so runaway that triggered fires, and there was more acid rain, and the oxygen level went down as temperatures went up. It felt like breathing Mount Everest. And then also the ozone layer was ripped open due to chemicals known as halocarbons that were released from the Siberian traps on harsh UV rays. Many other effects that lasted. The eruptions could last as little as 60,000 years. The effects definitely lasted from 500,000 to 1 million years. we're 500,000 to 1,000,000 years. The whole extinction lasted. The after effects, I mean. Anyway, when this was over, 90% of all species on Earth, 90 to 95% of all species on Earth were dead that were living in the Permian at the time were extinct, became extinct, wiped out them. 96% of marine species and 70% of land species. Anyway, but our ancestors, luckily, even though most synapsids, like the powerful saber-toothed gorgonopsid predators, gorgonopsid, saber-toothed predators, most Frenzophalians died out. Our ancestors, at this point, Davinia was one of them, signed on, survived. Davinia was, of course, probably became Fernaxodon by this point. And then also, the Earth was still hot and dry. Fernaxodon it lived in the late Permian, early Triassic, I would say. It was 17 and a half inches long, or 45 centimeters long. Lived in what is now South Africa and Antarctica. As far as we know, Fernaxodon lymphanus was its scientific name. It's full binomial name, the genus and species name. The former was its genus name, latter was its species name. It lived from 252 million years BCE to 247 million years BCE, the late Permian, early Triassic. Around 1,000,000 years after the Great Die-In, the last Fenicephalians died out. These guys died out. Actually, sorry, we're not done yet. The planet recovered them. And then eventually, an animal, actually, they became the first mammalian morphs. Our ancestors became the first mammalian morphs. Adobacillus, this creature, which lived around 225 million years BCE, was probably shrew-sized, just on its appearance, was shrew-like. And then later, Megazostrodon appeared. The last animal we're talking about today, Megazostrodon rufi, which lived around 201 million years BC. Late Triassic had survived the late Triassic extinction at that time, which was caused by Pangea breaking up, forming another volcanic eruption. Huge one, the Central Magmatic Atlantic Providences, or CAP for short, which was a large igneous providence that was formed as North America, as Pangea broke up as North America tore away from Europe and Africa. And then, but it wasn't as bad as the Permian extinction. Anyway, it survived. Well, Adelbacillus was a mammalian morph in the mammalian morph clade. Megazostrodon was further mammalian morph, particularly a mammalian form. It was a Morganucodont, a type of a stem group of mammalia forms. Anyway, that's the end for today. Next time, we'll talk about the first true mammals. Anyway, thank you for watching. Be sure, like, comment, share, and subscribe as always. Bye-bye. Like, comment, share this video on any platform, and subscribe as always. Bye-bye.